In this session, we are going to discuss the topic called profit and loss. And as discussed in the session of percentages, this particular topic is mostly based on the concepts of percentages. So if we are able to apply the concept that we have discussed in percentages, solving the questions from this area will become really very simple. Let us first understand what is meant by profit and loss. In any business transaction, whenever an article is sold, the seller either makes a profit or he makes a loss. Let us first understand how does this happen. For example, let's say there are two persons A and B. That is like A is the shopkeeper and B is the customer. So we can say that A has sold an article to B or B buys an article from A. Now as you can see here, when A wants to sell an article to B, he should first of all possess that article. How can A get that article? Either he should buy it from someone else or he himself has to manufacture it. Now in both the cases, he has to spend some money in acquiring the article. For example, let's say A has got the article from someone else. A has bought the article from someone else. So he has to pay some amount to the other person. Or if he himself manufactures it, he has to spend some money in the manufacturing process. So this amount which A spends in acquiring the article is called as the cost price of the article. So in simple terms, we can say that cost price is nothing but the price at which you buy the article. So we can say that cost price CP is equal to the price at which the article is bought. Now, after buying the article, A sells the same article to the other person B at some value. So the price at which A sells the article to B is called as sale price or the selling price of the article. And that generally is taken as SP. So we can say that selling price is nothing but the price at which the article is sold. So cost price is the price at which the article is bought and selling price is the price at which the article is sold. So here A has got two different values. So one is the cost price of A, let us take it as CA, and the other one is selling price of A, that is equal to SA. Now depending on which is higher, is the cost price higher or the selling price higher, we can find out is it a profit or loss. For example, let's say that the selling price of the article is higher than the cost price. So in that case, you can understand that A has bought the article at some value and he has sold it at a higher value. So the difference of these two values is the gain which is made by A, which is called as profit. And in case if the cost price is higher than the selling price, in that case the person A here makes a loss. Why? Because he has bought an article at some value and sold it at a lesser value. So the difference here is the loss made by A. So profit or loss is nothing but the difference between cost price and selling price. If the selling price is more, we get a profit, and if the cost price is more than the selling price, then we get a loss. Let us assume that there is one more person C. Now B here buys the article from A and sells it to C. So again B also will have one cost price which we can take it as CB and one selling price which can be taken as SB. Now as discussed earlier, cost price of B is the price at which B bought the article from A and selling price is the price at which B will sell the article to C. The important point to be noted here is selling price of A should be same as cost price of B. Selling price of A will be equal to cost price of B. Why? Because this SA is the price at which A sold the article to B and CB is the price at which B bought the article from A. Similarly, if C sells this article to D, so again C has got a selling price and a cost price which we can take it as SC and CC respectively. Now if you observe here, this is the price at which C bought the article and this is the price at which C will sell the article to D. So again, selling price of B will be equal to cost price of C. So the point to be observed here is always selling price of one person will be equal to the cost price of the next person. So in all these cases, when an article moves from one person to another, we can understand that selling price of one person will become the cost price of the other person. So what we have learned so far is what is cost price. It is the price at which an article is bought. What is selling price? The price at which the article is sold. And the other point that we have understood here is selling price of one person should be equal to the cost price of the next person. And as discussed, profit and loss both are nothing but the difference between selling price and cost price. So profit is obtained when selling price is more than cost price. So profit P can be taken as S minus C, where S is nothing but the selling price and C is the cost price. So from now onwards, whenever we use the term S, it means it is selling price, and the term C indicates the cost price. So profit is equal to S minus C, the difference of selling price and cost price. And the loss L can be taken as C minus S. Here C is the cost price and S is the selling price. So as you can see here, the profit P is taken as S minus C because selling price is more than cost price. And the loss L is taken as C minus S because cost price is more than the selling price. But in general, we can say that profit and loss is nothing but the difference between the cost price and the selling price. So for example, let's say that cost price of a pen is 8 rupees and the selling price of the same pen is 12 rupees. So we can say that the profit made, that is S minus C, will be equal to 12 minus 8, that is 4 rupees. Similarly, if the cost price of an article is 25 rupees and the selling price, let's say, is 18 rupees, then in this case, we can understand that since the selling price is less than the cost price, it is going to be a loss. So the loss L can be calculated as C minus S, which is equal to 25 minus 18, that is 7 rupees. So this is how the very simple calculation of profit and loss in terms of rupees can be done as S minus C or C minus S respectively. After learning about how to find out profit or loss in terms of rupees, let us now understand how to calculate profit and loss in terms of percentages. As discussed earlier, it is customary that we always calculate profit or loss in terms of percentages so that the comparison becomes simple. For example, if I say that there are two businessmen, businessman A and businessman B. Now, when we say that A has made a profit of 10 rupees and B has made a profit of 100 rupees, we simply cannot compare their profit in terms of rupees. It is important that we convert these profits in terms of percentages, and only then a proper comparison can be done. It would be wrong if we simply come to a conclusion that B is making more profit when compared to A. Why? Because profit which has been obtained is always on the investment made. So we always need to consider the investment before we compare the profits of two persons. For example, let's say that A has bought an article for 10 rupees. His cost price is 10 rupees and he has sold the article for 20 rupees. So we can understand that how businessman A has made a profit of 10 rupees. Cost price is 10 and selling price is 20. So profit would be 10 rupees. And B, who has made a profit of 100 rupees, for him the case may be that he has bought an article for 4,000 rupees and he has sold it for 4,100 rupees. So that's how he makes a profit of 100 rupees. Now if we try to compare the profits here, the profit made by A, 10 rupees, is on the investment of 10 rupees. That is nothing but the cost price. A has spent 10 rupees to obtain a profit of 10 rupees, whereas B has spent 4,000 rupees to obtain a profit of 100 rupees. So if we try to compare their profits in terms of their investments, we come to a conclusion that A actually is making more profit when compared to B. So that is the reason we always calculate profit or loss in terms of percentages, so that the comparison becomes simple. So let us see what are the formulae to be used to find out profit and loss in terms of percentages. As discussed earlier, profit is nothing but S minus C, that is selling price minus cost price, and loss is equal to C minus S. Now, profit percentage can be taken as profit by cost price into 100. And since we know that profit is equal to S minus C, we can say that the profit percentage is S minus C by C into 100. Similarly, the loss percentage can be taken as loss by cost price into 100. And since we know that loss is equal to C minus S, the answer here will be C minus S by C into 100. So simply remember that profit percentage is S minus C by C into 100 and loss percentage is C minus S by C into 100, or nothing but profit by cost price into 100 and loss by cost price into 100 respectively. Now the important point to be observed here is we are calculating both profit percentage and loss percentage on the base of cost price with respect to cost price. If you look at this, profit percentage is profit upon cost price into 100 and loss percentage is loss upon cost price into 100. So very clearly the profit and loss when calculated in terms of percentage, it is with respect to cost price. So remember that cost price should always be taken as the base value whenever we are solving questions from profit and loss. And here when we say that cost price is base value, it means nothing but cost price should always be taken as 100%. So in any question that we solve, always we can start with cost price as 100% and accordingly we can find out profit and loss or selling price. Let us first see an application of these two formulae. Let's say that the cost price of an article is 400 rupees and the selling price is 500 rupees. We are supposed to find out the profit percentage or the loss percentage. And as we can see here, since the selling price is more than the cost price, it definitely has to be a profit. And hence, we need to find out the profit percentage. And we know that percentage of profit can be taken as S minus C by C into 100. So we can say that the answer here is 500, that is the selling price, minus 400, the cost price, by 400 into 100. So this comes out to be 100 by 400 into 100, or nothing but 1 by 4 into 100, which is 25%. So the profit here is 25%. So this is how we can use the formula for profit percentage to find out the answer when the selling price and cost price are given to us. And similarly, we can use the second formula to find out the loss percentage when cost price and selling price are given. After understanding how to calculate profit and loss and profit percentage and loss percentage, let us now go for the first model from this topic, where we are supposed to find out the selling price or cost price of the article when the profit percentage or the loss percentage is given to us. Before we take up any example, let us first have a look at the required formula. Selling price can be taken as 100 plus profit percentage divided by 100 into C. So whenever profit percentage and cost price are given to us, we can simply say that S, that is selling price, should be equal to 100 plus percentage profit divided by 100 into C. And similarly, whenever loss percentage and cost price are given, the selling price can be taken as 100 minus loss percentage by 100 into C. So this is how we can find out the selling price when the profit percentage or the loss percentage with the cost price has been specified. Similarly, from this formula we can find out the cost price when the selling price and profit percentage or the selling price and loss percentage are given to us. For example, from this one we can say that cost price will be equal to 100 divided by 100 plus profit percentage into S. And from this one we can say that the cost price C will be equal to 100 by 100 minus loss percentage multiplied with S. So this is the formula for cost price when the profit percentage and the loss percentage are given to us. So cost price can be taken as 100 by 100 plus profit percentage into S, and here 100 by 100 minus loss percentage into S. Let us now understand the working behind these formulas so that solving the questions would become even more easier. We know that profit percentage and loss percentage both are calculated on cost price. That means cost price is always treated as the base value, and hence it should always be taken as 100%. So remember that cost price is always equivalent to 100%. So whatever be the value, that should always be equated to 100%. From the basic formula, we know that profit is equal to S minus C. So from this we can say that selling price S should be equal to cost price plus profit. Now if we try to write this equation in terms of a percentage equation, we can say that selling price in terms of percentage should be equal to cost price in terms of percentage and the profit in terms of percentage. We very well know that cost price in terms of percentage should always be 100. So therefore, the percentage of selling price will be equal to 100 plus the profit percentage. For example, if the profit is 10%, selling price would be 100 plus 10, that is 110%. If the profit is 20%, selling price would be 100 plus 20, that is 120%. And similarly, let's say the profit is 55%, then the selling price in terms of percentage should be 100 plus 55, that is 155%. And all these percentages are with respect to cost price as it is the base value. For example, if the profit is 10%, it means what? Profit is 10% of cost price. Now, if the profit is 10%, we can say that selling price will be equal to 100 plus this profit, 10%. That is equal to 110% of cost price. So, selling price is 110% of cost price. Similarly, if the profit is 20%, selling price would be 100 plus 20, 120% of cost price. And if the profit is 95%, selling price would be 100 plus 95, 195% of the cost price. So very clearly, we can always take the selling price in terms of percentage as 100 plus profit percentage. And accordingly, if there is a loss, then the selling price can be taken as 100 minus the loss percentage. For example, if there is a loss of 10%, then the selling price will be 100 minus 10%, that is 90% of cost price. If there is a loss of 15%, then the selling price would be 100 minus 15, that is 85% of cost price. So this way, if you try to understand what could be the selling price in terms of percentage, then solving the basic questions can become very easy even without using these formulae. So simply remember that cost price will always be equal to 100% and selling price will either be 100 plus profit percent or 100 minus loss percent. And all these percentage calculations are with respect to the cost price. Let us now take an example on the concept of model 1 that we have just discussed. The question here is, an umbrella was sold at a profit of 20%. What is the selling price of the umbrella if its cost price is rupees 180? Now, as we have discussed earlier, to solve these type of questions, we can say that selling price will be equal to 100 plus profit percentage divided by 100 into cost price. So this is the formula to be used to solve this question. And otherwise, we can use the concept of percentages, that is selling price and cost price in terms of percentages to solve the question. Let us try to solve this question in both the ways, and then as per your convenience, you can follow whichever is comfortable for you. Now, going by the formula here, the selling price will be equal to 100 plus the profit percentage, that is nothing but 20 divided by 100 into the cost price. The cost price here is nothing but 180. So this will be equal to 120 by 100 into 180. Now, by solving this, we can say that the answer should be, zeros get cancelled here, 12 into 18, which is equal to 216. Therefore, the selling price of this umbrella has to be 216 such that the profit is 20%. Otherwise, instead of using the formula, what we can simply understand here is the cost price is always equivalent to 100%. And the cost price in the given question is rupees 180. So we can say that 100% is equivalent to 180. And we are supposed to find out the selling price. When the profit is 20%, selling price has to be 100 plus 20, that is 120% as discussed earlier. So here we can say that selling price is equal to 120% because the profit is 20%. And this 120% is equivalent to what has to be calculated. So here the selling price can be taken as 120 into 180 divided by 100. That is nothing but the cross multiplication. Again here the zeros get cancelled and the answer will be 216. So either you can simply memorize the formula and substitute the values to get the answer, or simply go by this concept of percentages. That is, cost price should always be taken as 100% and selling price can be taken as 100 plus profit percent or 100 minus loss percent. And then cross multiplication will give you the required answer. But in general, it would be better that you always go for the second solution here. Why? Because for solving typical questions which are not simply based on the formula, this concept of percentages will be very, very useful. Let us now take the second example based on the model 1 that we have just covered. The question here is, an article was sold for rupees 13,000 at a loss of 35%. What is the cost price of the article? So we need to find out the cost price of the article where it was sold for rupees 13,000 at a loss of 35%. Now again, the question here can be solved in two ways. Either we can use the formula that we have discussed earlier, or we can go by the concept of percentages. Let us try to solve this one in both the ways. Now going by the formula, we know that cost price should be taken as 100 divided by 100 minus loss percent into selling price. So let us substitute the values here. That is 100 divided by 100 minus, the loss made here in terms of percentage is 35%. So 100 minus 35 into the selling price is equal to 13,000. Now by simplifying this, we get 100 by 100 minus 35 is 65 into 13,000. 65 here gets cancelled 2 times. So the answer here will be 200 into 100, that is 20,000 rupees. So we can say that the cost price of the article is equal to 20,000. Otherwise, we can also solve the question without making use of this formula. See, strictly speaking, we actually use the concept behind the formula, but we do not use the format in which the formula has been given. Now, the simple concept here is to use in terms of percentages. We know that cost price should always be taken as 100%. And here we need to find out what is the cost price. That means 100% equivalent has to be calculated. The question says selling price is 13,000 and the loss was 35%. We know that if the loss is 35%, the selling price should be 100 minus this loss percentage. So that is equal to 100 minus 35, which is equal to 65%. So selling price here is nothing but 65%. And the given selling price is 13,000. So we can very well understand that 65% is equivalent to 13,000. And we are supposed to find out the cost price. That is nothing but 100% of the value. So by cross multiplication, we can find out the required cost price. That will be equal to 100 into 13,000 divided by 65. And this again gets cancelled 2 times. So the answer here would be 20,000 rupees. So if you try to observe, the simplification is same in both the cases. That is 100 by 65 into 13,000 as per the formula, and 100 into 13,000 by 65 as per the concept that we have discussed. But as I've already mentioned, it would be better if we can always solve the questions based on this concept, so that solving typical questions or questions that are difficult will become easy with this method. Let us have a look at the first example. The question here is, a watch was sold at a loss of 9%. It was observed that if the selling price was rupees 420 more, the profit made would have been 5%. What is the actual selling price of the watch? So as you can see here, the question says a watch was sold at a loss of 9%. It was observed that if the selling price is 420 more, that means if the selling price is increased by rupees 420, then there will be a profit. And that profit would be equal to 5%. So from this data, we are supposed to find out what is the actual selling price of the watch. Now the best way to solve such questions is simply find out the selling price in terms of percentages and then cross multiply to find out the required answer. For example, here the question says the watch was sold at a loss of 9%. We very well understand that if the loss is 9%, then the selling price will be equal to 100 minus 9%, that is equal to 91%. That means the actual selling price of the watch was equivalent to 91%. The next part of the question says if the selling price is increased by rupees 420, the profit made would have been 5%. That means if the selling price is increased by 420, profit will be 5%. Now we know that if the profit is 5%, the selling price, let us take it as S dash, the new selling price will be equal to 100 plus 5%. That is nothing but 105%. So the original selling price is 91%, but the new selling price, when the price is increased by rupees 420, would be equivalent to 105%. And from the question, we very well know that S dash is equal to S plus 420. Why? Because selling price has been increased by 420. So new selling price should be original price plus 420 rupees. Now let us substitute S dash and S in terms of percentages. So we can say that 105% should be equal to 91% plus 420. So very clearly from this we can say that 105 minus 91, that is 14%, is equivalent to 420 rupees. That means 14% of the value is as good as 420 rupees. And we are supposed to find out what is the actual selling price of the watch. We know that actual selling price of the watch is 91%. So we can say that S, that is actual selling price, should be equal to 91%. And we need to find out what is the value here. So by cross multiplication, we can find out the original selling price. So the original selling price S will be equal to 91 into 420 divided by 14. Now 14 goes 3 times here. So the answer will be 91 into 3. That is 273 into 10. 2,730 rupees. So the original selling price of the watch is 2,730 rupees. So this is how simply with the help of percentages we can get the required answer in just 1 or 2 steps. Remember friends, you need not write all these steps in the exam. The most important part to be understood here is this, that the difference between 2 selling prices is 14%, which is given as 420. And we are supposed to find out the original price, 91%. So simply cross multiply and find out the required answer. Similarly, sometimes instead of asking what is the original selling price of the watch, the question may say what is the cost price of the watch. And we know that cost price should always be taken as 100%. So we can say that if 14% is 420, 100% should be equal to what? And cross multiply to get the answer. And likewise, if the question says what is the loss made in the original case, we know that loss made is 9%. So if 14% is 420, 9% is equal to what? And likewise for any other question, we just need to know what is the desired percentage and cross multiply to find out the required answer. So always try to follow the concept of percentages for solving these type of questions so that we can get the answer in just one step. Let us now take the third model from profit and loss, which is a very popular question in bank exams. Here the profit made by selling an article at some value is equal to the loss made by selling the article at some other value. And from this data, we are supposed to find out what is the cost price. Let us look at the question. The profit earned by selling a phone for rupees 18,000 is same as the loss incurred after selling it for rupees 16,800. What is the cost price of the phone? So as you can see here, the profit earned when it was sold for 18,000 is same as the loss. Profit is equal to the loss when it was sold for 16,800. So from this data, we need to find out the cost price of the phone. What is the cost price of the phone? Now as given in the question, the profit made is equal to the loss. Profit is made in one case, loss is made in some other case, but these two are equal. Now we know that profit is nothing but selling price minus cost price, and loss is equal to cost price minus selling price. As it is the same article that we are talking about in the two cases, the cost price is equal. But here the selling prices are different. So let us take it as selling price for profit and selling price for loss. Now selling price when it was sold at profit was 18,000. So 18,000 minus cost price should be equal to cost price minus the selling price when it was sold for loss is given as 16,800. So this is equal to 16,800. So from this we can say that C plus C, 2C will be equal to 18,000 plus 16,800. Therefore, C should be equal to 18,000 plus 16,800. That is 34,800 divided by 2, which comes out to be 17,400. So the cost price of the phone here should be 17,400 rupees. Let us now take one more example based on the model 3 that we have just discussed. The question here is profit earned by selling a shirt for rupees 1200 is twice the loss incurred when the shirt is sold for rupees 600. What is the cost price of the shirt? So if you try to observe, this example here is quite similar to the example 1. But the only difference here is the profit is twice the loss, whereas in the previous example, the profit was equal to loss. Now going by the same concept, we know that profit is equal to twice the loss. Profit is nothing but S minus C. And let us take it as selling price for profit because the two selling prices are going to be different. So this should be equal to twice the loss. Loss is C minus S. And let us take it as SL to differentiate from the selling price for profit. Now by substituting the values here, we can find out the required answer. So selling price for profit is 1200 minus C should be equal to 2 into C minus the selling price for loss is 600. So this is 600. So from this we can say that 1200 minus C is equal to 2C minus 1200. So overall 3C, 2C plus C, 3C is equal to 1200 plus 1200, that is 2400. So very clearly the cost price of the shirt here should be 2400 by 3, which is equal to 800 rupees. So this is how we get the cost price in this case when the profit is equal to twice the loss. So what you can understand from these two examples is always try to write the proper equation. Profit is equal to loss as in example 1 and profit is equal to twice the loss or thrice the loss as per the given question. And then just substitute the values properly and get the required answer. Let us now discuss the fourth model from profit and loss, which is again a very popular question in bank exams. Let us have a look at the first example. The question is, Sridhar sold 16 pens at the cost of 20 pens. What is the profit or loss percentage made by him? So as you can see here, the question says, Sridhar has sold 16 pens at the cost price of 20 pens. And from this data, we are supposed to find out the profit or loss in terms of percentage made by Sridhar. If you try to observe, nowhere in the question, either the cost price or the selling price of the pens have been specified. So generally, some students have a misconception that because the cost price or the selling price have not been given, we cannot find out the profit or loss percentage. And hence they mark the answer as cannot be determined, which is absolutely wrong. This question can actually be answered even though The cost price and the selling price have not been given. So let us see how to solve this question. Let us assume that the selling price of each pen is S and the cost price of each pen is C. Now if you read the statement here, Sridhar sold 16 pens. So the total selling price must be 16 into S. Why? Because the selling price of each pen is S. So total selling price here will be 16 into S. And these 16 pens were sold at the cost of 20 pens. That means the selling price of 16 pens is equal to the cost price of 20 pens. If the cost price of each pen is C, the cost price of 20 pens would be 20 into C. So from this we can say that 4S equals to 5C, or S equals to 5C by 4. Now we very well understand that 5 by 4 is nothing but 125%. So we can say that the selling price here is equal to 125% of cost price. And as per our discussion in model 1, we know that if the selling price is 125% of the cost price, the profit is equal to 25%. So we can say that the profit made by Sridhar here would be 25%. So the correct answer is option number 3. So friends, never mark the answer here as cannot be determined just because the selling price or the cost price have not been given. Simply with the quantities which are given here, we can find out the relationship between S and C, and from that relationship we can find out the profit percentage. This question can also be solved with the help of a shortcut formula. The formula here can be understood as follows. Let us assume that Sridhar has sold some quantity of pens. Let us assume he has sold M pens at the cost of N pens. M pens have been sold at the cost of N pens. So to find out the profit or loss percentage in these type of questions, that is, if M pens or if M articles are sold at the cost of N articles, then the profit or loss percentage can be calculated as the percentage of profit or the percentage of loss will be equal to N minus M by M into 100. So if you can simply remember this formula, the answer can be obtained directly. That is N minus M by M into 100, where N is the quantity which is with respect to the cost price and M is the quantity with respect to the selling price. Now remember, how should we decide whether the value that we have got is a percentage profit or a percentage loss? That can be understood with the help of the sign that we get here. For example, if we get a negative answer, then this should be taken as a percentage loss. Otherwise, it should be taken as percentage profit. So let us see how can we get the answer with this formula. Now, as given in the question, Sridhar sold 16 pens at the cost of 20 pens. So very clearly, N is equal to 20 and M is equal to 16. So the answer should be 20 minus 16 divided by 16 into 100. So this is equal to 4. 4 by 16 is nothing but 1 by 4, and 1 by 4 is equivalent to 25%. And since we have got a positive answer, this should be taken as 25% profit, and that is what we have obtained in the previous case. So from this it is very clear that you can solve the question either with the help of a relationship between selling price and cost price and then finding out the required answer in terms of percentage profit or percentage loss. Otherwise, use the formula, that is N minus M by M into 100, where N is the quantity associated with cost and M is the quantity associated with the selling price. Let us now take one more example based on the model that we have discussed just now. The question is, Anirudh sold 21 books at the cost price of 18 books. Find the percentage profit or loss in this transaction. So as we can see here, 21 books were sold at the cost price of just 18 books, and we are supposed to find out how much is the profit or loss percentage in this transaction. As discussed in the previous example, such questions can be solved with the formula N minus M by M into 100, where N is the quantity associated with cost price and M is the quantity associated with selling price. So as you can see here, the cost price was for 18 books. So very clearly N is equal to 18 and the number of books sold were 21. So selling price is for 21 books. So M is equal to 21. So let us substitute the values. 18 minus 21 upon 21 into 100. So this will be equal to minus 3 by 21 into 100. And this can be taken as 1 by 7. So the final answer should be minus of 1 by 7 into 100. And from the knowledge of fractions into percentages, we know that 1 by 7 is nothing but 14.28%. So minus sign here indicates that this is a percentage loss. So the answer here should be 14.28% loss. So this is how such questions can be solved with the help of the formula n minus m by n into 100. Or otherwise, as discussed in the previous example, we can form a relationship between selling price and cost price, and from which we can find out the profit percentage or loss percentage as required. Let us now take the fifth model from profit and loss, where we have a set of questions where either the selling price of two articles or the cost price of the two articles are equal, and also the profit percentage and the loss percentage made on each of these articles are equal, and we are supposed to find out what would be the overall profit or loss percentage. Let us look at the first example. The question says a shopkeeper bought two ceiling fans for rupees 800 each. He sold one fan at a profit of 12% and the other at a loss of 12%. What would be his overall profit or loss in the transaction? So we need to find out the overall profit or loss which is made by the shopkeeper when he has sold both the fans. Now, as given in the question, the shopkeeper bought two fans for rupees 800 each. We understand that the price which you pay to buy some article is the cost price of the article. So very clearly, the cost price of the two fans is rupees 800 each. So the cost price of the first fan is 800 and for the second fan is also 800. The next point here is he sold one fan at a profit of 12% and the other at a loss of 12%. So let us assume that the first fan was sold at a profit of 12% and the second fan was sold at a loss of 12%. So the profit on the first fan, let us take it as P1, is equal to 12%. And the loss on the second fan, let us take it as L2, is also 12%. And from this data, we are supposed to find out what would be his overall profit or loss in this transaction. Now, as discussed in model number 1, whenever cost price and the profit percentage are given to us, we can find out the selling price. For example, when the profit is 12%, we understand that selling price should be 100 plus 12, 112%. So very clearly the selling price here of the first fan should be 112%. And the cost price is given as 800. So 100% is equivalent to 800. We are supposed to find out what is 112%. And this will come out to be 800 plus 96. That is 896 rupees. Similarly, for the second fan here, we know that the cost price is 800. That means again the 100% is 800, but the loss was 12%. If the loss is 12%, selling price must be 100 minus 12. That is 88%. So selling price of the second fan should be 88%. And again, if 100% is 800, 88% would be equal to 704 rupees. So now we know the selling price of each of the fans. The selling price of the first fan is 896 and that of the second fan is 704 rupees. So let us now proceed to find out what would be the overall profit or loss made by the shopkeeper. Now, overall cost price is nothing but sum of the individual cost prices, that is C1 plus C2, which is equal to 800 plus 800, that is equal to 1600 rupees. And the overall selling price is S1 plus S2, which will be equal to the selling price of first fan is 896 plus that of the second fan is 704, which comes out to be again 1600 rupees. So you find here that the overall cost price is 1600 and the overall selling price is also rupees 1600. Now, if the cost price and the selling prices are equal, there will not be any profit or any loss. So we can say that there is going to be no profit, no loss in this transaction. So the answer here is no profit, no loss, as both the selling prices and the cost prices are equal. So now we can understand that whenever the cost price of two articles are same and the profit percentage is equal to loss percentage, the answer has to be no profit, no loss. So from next time onwards, without doing any of these calculations, our simple answer here should be no profit, no loss. But remember, there are conditions which have to be satisfied. The answer here will be no profit, no loss if and only if the cost price of both the articles are equal and the profit percentage on one article is equal to the loss percentage on the other. So only when these two conditions are satisfied, we can take the answer as no profit, no loss. Otherwise, we need to go by the general procedure as we have discussed here. Let us now take one more example from model 5 that we have just discussed. The question here is, a person sold 2 articles for rupees 1200 each. He made a profit of 20% on one and a loss of 20% on the other. What will be the overall profit or loss in percentage? Now, if you try to observe here, the example 2 that is given here is quite similar to example 1. Even in that case, the profit made on one article was equal to the loss made on the other article in terms of percentage. But one major difference that we find in this example when compared to the previous one is that here a person sold 2 articles for rupees 1200 each. That means here the selling prices of the 2 articles are equal. Whereas in the previous example, the cost price of the 2 articles were equal. So don't have a misunderstanding that even in this case, the answer will be no profit, no loss. Remember friends, answer will be no profit, no loss only when the cost prices are equal and the percentage profit is equal to percentage loss. But as you can see here, we have no idea about the cost prices. We only know that the selling prices are equal and percentage profit on one is equal to percentage loss on the other. So let us try to solve this question in the standard procedure first. Now, we can understand that selling price of the first article is 1200 and that of the second article is also 1200. Why? Because both of them were sold for 1200 each. The profit on one of the articles is 20% and the loss on the other is also 20%. So let us assume that the first article was sold at a profit. So profit on first one should be 20% and the second one was sold at a loss of 20%. Now again, with respect to model number 1, once we know the selling price and the profit or loss percentage, we can find out the cost price. As you can see here, profit is 20%. If the profit is 20%, selling price should be 100 plus 20, that is 120%. But that 120% is given as 1200. So if 120% is 1200, the cost price, which is always 100%, will be equal to 1000. So we can say that the cost price is 1000 when the selling price is 1200 and the profit is 20%. Similarly, here the selling price is 1200 and the loss is 20%. Now we understand that if the loss is 20%, selling price should be 100 minus 20, that is 80%. So this 1200 is equivalent to 80% and we are supposed to find out the cost price, which is always 100%. So if 80% is 1200, 100% should be what? By cross multiplication, we will get the value as 1500. So we can say that the cost price of the second article must be 1500 based on the given selling price and the loss. Now since we have got both the cost prices here, let us now find out the overall selling price and the overall cost price. The overall selling price S, that is S1 plus S2, can be taken as 1200 plus 1200, which is equal to 2400 rupees. Similarly, the overall cost price C can be taken as C1 plus C2, that is 1000 rupees is C1 and 1500 is C2. So this comes out to be 2500 rupees. So we find that the total selling price is 2400 and the total cost price is 2500. So very clearly, the cost price of both the articles together is more than the selling price of both the articles together. That means overall cost price is more than overall selling price. And we know that if the cost price is more than selling price, there will be a loss. So we need to find out that loss in percentage. And we know that loss in terms of percentage can be taken as cost price minus selling price by cost price into 100. So cost price here is 2500 minus selling price, that is 2400, which comes out to be 100 rupees. Or nothing but loss by cost price. Loss here is 100 rupees. 2500 minus 2400 is the loss, that is equal to 100. 100 divided by cost price 2500 into 100. So this will be equal to 4%. So we can say that the answer here is 4% loss. Why? Because zeros anyway get cancelled. 1 by 25 into 100 will be equal to 4. So the answer here should be 4% loss. But friends, as this is a special case where the selling price of each article is equal and at the same time the profit made on the first article is equal to the loss made on the second article in terms of percentage, we need not write all these steps to get the answer. This question can be solved with the help of a shortcut formula, which is as follows. The overall loss percentage can be taken as x squared by 100%, where x is nothing but the common gain or loss, or common profit or loss For example, here we find that the profit is 20% and the loss also is 20%. So the common gain or loss X in our case is 20. So the answer can be directly taken as 20 squared by 100. We know that 20 squared is 400 and 400 by 100 is 4. So the answer here is 4% loss. So this is the shortcut formula to solve such questions. So remember that always the overall loss should be taken as x squared by 100%. But because this is a shortcut formula, you also need to take care of the star mark, which means conditions apply. This particular formula is only applicable in certain conditions, and those conditions here are, the first one is selling price should be equal for both the articles. S1 must be equal to S2. And the second condition is profit percentage on one article should be equal to the loss percentage on the second one. Only when these two conditions are satisfied, we can apply the formula x squared by 100. Otherwise, we need to follow the normal procedure. So friends, simply remember that whenever the selling prices of the two articles are equal and the percentage profit on one is equal to the percentage loss on other, the answer should be x squared by 100, where x is the common gain or loss percentage. And this question is quite opposite to the previous example, where the cost prices were equal and the percentage profit was equal to percentage loss. So wherever the cost prices are equal and the percentage profit is equal to percentage loss, the answer has to be no profit, no loss. And wherever selling prices are equal and the percentage profit is equal to percentage loss, the answer can be taken as x squared by 100. And remember, in these type of cases, always we'll have a loss. So no need to worry whether this is 4% profit or 4% loss. It has to be 4% loss only. So depending on the question, you can either say that the answer is no profit, no loss, or apply the shortcut formula, that is x squared by 100. And if these conditions are not satisfied, then you can follow the normal procedure and get the required answer. Let us now take the sixth model from profit and loss, where we are going to look at a very interesting question. Let us look at the question first. A sold an article to B at a profit of 20% and B sold the same article to C at a profit of 10%. If C bought it for rupees 2,640, how much did A pay for it? So as you can see here, this is like a chain transaction. A sold an article to B and then B sells the same article to C. A made a profit of 20% and B has made a profit of 10%. C bought it for rupees 2,640. That means the cost price for C is 2,640. We need to find out how much did A pay for it, or nothing but the cost price for A. So if we try to understand the chain transaction here, we have got three persons A, B and C. A sold the article to B at a profit of 20% and B sold the same article to C at a profit of 10%. So we can understand that this is the profit of A and here is the profit of B. That is 20% and 10% respectively. Next, the question says C bought it for rupees 2,640. That means the amount which C has spent to acquire the article is 2,640. And we can understand that it is nothing but the cost price for C. So we can say that the cost price for C, let us take it as CC, should be equal to 2,640. And we are supposed to find out how much did A pay for it. That means what is the cost price for A? Let us take it as CA. So CA has to be calculated. Why? Because A also has bought this article from someone else. So how much did A pay for this article to the other person? Which is nothing but the cost price for A. So the cost price of C is given and we are supposed to find out the cost price of A. Now this particular question here can be solved in various ways. One way of solving the question here would be to go in the backward direction. For example, we know the cost price of C. And as discussed in the introduction of this topic, cost price of C should be equal to the selling price of B. So we can say that selling price of B is equal to cost price of C, which is equal to 2,640. Why? Because selling price of B is the price at which B sold the article to C. That is nothing but the price at which C bought the article from A. So they have to be equal. So selling price of B is equal to 2,640. So now we know the selling price of B and we also know the profit made by B. So from this we can find out the cost price of B. So let us first find out the cost price of B. We know that the profit made by B is equal to 10% and his selling price is equal to 2,640. So with the help of the percentages concept, we can find out the cost price of B. That is nothing but if the profit is 10%, selling price should be 110%, which is 2640. So 100% should be equal to 2400. That you can obtain with the help of cross multiplication. So cost price of B is 2400 rupees. So that means B has paid 2400 rupees for the article. So cost price of B is equal to 2400. Again, going by the same point, we can understand that cost price of B is equal to selling price of A. Why? Because selling price of A is the price at which A sold the article to B, which is as good as the price at which B bought the article from A. So we now know that selling price of A is equal to 2400, and we also know the profit of A, which is 20%. So once we know the selling price and the profit, we can find out the cost price. So we can say that profit of A is 20% and selling price of A is equal to 2400. So from this, if we do the calculation, we will be able to find out the cost price of A. That is nothing but 120% is 2400. As the profit is 20%, selling price should be 120%, which is 2400. And 100% will come out to be 2000 rupees. So we can say that cost price of A is 2000 rupees. And it is nothing but the amount which A paid for the article. So the answer here is 2000. So this is how we can solve this question by moving in the reverse direction. That is nothing but from the cost price of C, we will first find out the cost price of B, and from that we can find out the cost price of A. Now the other way to solve this question here is to eliminate the person B. Let us understand what happens if A directly sells the article to C. So there will not be any second party. A directly sells the article to C. Now here profit made by A was 20% and the profit made by B was 10%. So what would be the overall profit if A directly sells the article to C? And that overall profit can be taken as the net or effective percentage whenever two percentages are given to us, which was discussed in the concept of percentages. And we know that net percentage or effective percentage can be taken as A plus B plus AB by 100%. That means whenever two percentage values are given to us and we need the effective of that, we need to go for A plus B plus AB by 100. A here is nothing but the profit of person A, which is 20%, and B here is nothing but the profit of person B, which is 10%. So substituting the values here, we get 20 plus 10 plus 20 into 10 by 100, which comes out to be 32%. So very clearly, if A directly sells the article to C, then he would be making a profit of 32%. That is the net profit or the effective profit for these two given values. Remember friends, don't misunderstand that overall profit should be 20 plus 10, 30%. 30% is not going to be the overall profit. Overall profit should be taken as A plus B plus AB by 100%, which gives you 32 as the resultant profit. Now, we know that A has made a profit of 32% and the cost price for C is 2640. Cost price of C is 2640. That remains same. Now, cost price of C is equal to selling price of A. So now we know that selling price of A is 2640 and the profit made by A is 32%. So we can find out the cost price of A with the help of a simple cross multiplication. That is nothing but if the profit is 32%, selling price has to be 100 plus 32, 132%. And that selling price is equal to 2640. So we can say that 132% is equal to 2640. And we are supposed to find out the cost price. As we have learned, cost price should always be taken as 100%. So cost price of A should be equal to what? This is the selling price of A and this is the cost price of A. So by cross multiplication, we get to know that cost price of A will be equal to 100 into 2640 divided by 132, which again comes out to be 2000 rupees. So this is how you can solve the question by finding out the overall profit percentage and then using it for the person A to find out the cost price of A. So either you can go in the reverse direction to find out the cost price for the person A, or you can simply apply net effective percentage formula and then find out the cost price. Similarly, in some questions, instead of profits, there may be losses. For example, loss of person A is 20% and loss incurred by person B is 10%. Even in that case, we can go for the formula A plus B plus AB by 100. But the point to be understood is, because they are losses, the values should be substituted with a negative sign. That means A will be minus 20 and B will be minus 10. Similarly, if A has made a profit of 20% and B has incurred a loss of 10%, in that case, A should be taken plus 20 because it is a profit, and B should be taken as minus 10 since it is a loss. So depending on whether they are making profits or loss, we can substitute the values in A plus B plus AB by 100% and then find out the required answer. Let us now take another interesting question from profit and loss. A dishonest dealer claims to sell his goods at the cost price but uses a weight of 800 grams instead of 1 kg. What will be the profit percentage in this transaction? So as you can see here, this dishonest person claims that he is selling the goods at the cost price. That means selling price is equal to cost price. And we understand very well that if the selling price and the cost price are same, there will not be any profit or any loss. But he uses a weight of 800 grams instead of 1 kg. So definitely he would make some profit by giving 800 grams instead of 1 kg. And we are supposed to find out what will be the profit in terms of percentage in such a transaction. So let's see how to solve this question. As given in the question, selling price is equal to the cost price. Let us assume that the cost price of the item here is 1000 rupees per kg. That means 1000 rupees for 1000 grams. If cost price is 1000 rupees per kg, selling price should also be equal to 1000 rupees per kg. And we know that profit percentage can be taken as S minus C by C into 100. So let us try to substitute the probable selling price and the cost price and find out the profit percentage. Let's say 1 kg of the item is sold. Now if 1 kg is sold, the selling price will be equal to 1000 rupees. Why? Because the selling price is 1000 rupees per kg. So we can say that the selling price is 1000 rupees. But we very well understand that instead of 1 kg, he has given only 800 grams. And the costing for 800 grams will be rupees 800. Why? Because 1000 rupees per kg means 1000 rupees for 1000 grams. So if it is 1000 rupees for 1000 grams, the cost price for 800 grams will be 800 rupees. So very clearly what he gets is 1000 rupees. But what he has spent there is only 800 rupees. So we can say 1000 minus 800. 800 is the cost price. Divided by 800 will be the answer into 100. So 1000 minus 800 will be equal to 200, and 200 by 800 is 1 by 4. So 1/4 is equal to 25%. So we can say that the profit made would be 25%. Let me repeat this once again. The simple point here is cost price and selling price are equal, and we are assuming that the price here is 1000 rupees per kg. So if he sells 1 kg, the customer will pay him 1000 rupees, thinking that he has got 1 kg. So the selling price should be taken as 1000. But as he has given only 800 grams instead of 1 kg, the costing for the shopkeeper will be only 800 rupees. Because 1000 rupees per kg is 1000 rupees for 1000 grams. So 800 rupees for 800 grams. So that is the reason the cost price is 800. Now by simplifying this, we get the answer as 25%. So this is the concept behind getting the answer for these type of questions. And this question can also be solved with the help of the shortcut formula, which goes as follows. The percentage profit will be equal to true weight minus the false weight by false weight into 100. So if you can remember this formula, you can directly get the answer as true weight minus false weight by false weight into 100. Now the true weight here is nothing but 1 kg, but he is using a false weight of 800 grams. So true weight here should be taken as 1 kg and the false weight is 800 grams. So the answer should be 1 kg. That should be taken in terms of grams. So which is equal to 1000 grams minus 800 grams by 800 grams into 100, which is same as 1000 minus 800 by 800 into 100. So either we can use the shortcut formula, that is true weight minus false weight by false weight into 100, or solve the question by the concept as given here. Let us now take the next model from profit and loss, which is based on the concept of discount. To understand this concept, we first need to learn what is marked price. Marked price is the price at which the article is marked. It is generally denoted as M. So it is nothing but the price at which the article has been marked. We find that on many articles there is a label or there is the value written. So that value is known as marked price. If there is no discount, that means if the discount D is equal to 0, then the selling price will be equal to marked price. But otherwise, whenever the discount is given, discount is generally given to attract the customer or to improve the sales. So whenever a discount is given, then the selling price should be taken as marked price minus discount value. So selling price is always marked price minus discount. And if the discount is 0, selling price will be M minus 0. That is nothing but M. So the simple point to be understood here is whenever there is no discount, selling price is same as marked price. But when there is a discount, selling price should be taken as marked price minus discount. And remember that generally the discounts are given in terms of percentage. And this percentage of discount should always be taken on the marked price. And then we can find out the selling price as marked price minus discount. Let us now look at the first example based on the concept of discount. The question here is an article was sold for rupees 480 after a discount of 20%. What is the marked price? So here we are supposed to find out the marked price where the selling price is given, that is rupees 480, and the discount is 20%. So as given in the question, selling price is equal to 480 and the discount is equal to 20%. And we are supposed to find out the marked price M. Remember friends, selling price should always be taken as marked price minus discount. And since discount is always calculated on marked price, we can understand that marked price should be treated as 100%. For example, if the discount is 10%, selling price would be marked price minus discount. That is 100% minus 10%, which is 90%. Similarly, if the discount is 25%, selling price would be 100% minus 25%. That is 75% of the marked price. So whenever the marked price and discount comes into picture, the percentages must be taken with respect to marked price. So here marked price is always 100% and the discount should be taken on marked price. So accordingly we can find out the selling price as marked price minus discount percentage. So as given here, the discount was 20%. So we can understand that if the discount is 20%, selling price should be 100% minus 20%. We are taking marked price as 100%. It should always be taken as 100% because here the percentage calculations are done on marked price. So the selling price will be 100 minus 20, that is equal to 80%. Now from the question we know that selling price is 480. So we can say that 80% is equivalent to 480 and we are supposed to find out the marked price. Marked price we know is equivalent to 100%. So this should be equal to what? So by cross multiplication we get the required answer. So marked price will be equal to 100 into 480 divided by 80. 80 gets cancelled 6 times here. So 100 into 6 is 600 rupees. So the marked price of the article here is 600 rupees. So if you try to observe, the question here can be solved in a similar manner as we do in case of profit and loss. There always the cost price is taken as 100% and the calculations are done on the cost price. Here always the marked price is taken as 100% and all the calculations are done on marked price. So simply remember that marked price is 100% and selling price should be marked price minus discount. So we find the selling price as 80%. Instead of marked price, if the question says how much is the discount, we know that the discount given was 20%. So if 80% is 480, 20% is equal to what? Again by cross multiplication, we can find out the discount in terms of rupees. Let us now take one more example based on the concept of discount. The question is, a shopkeeper marks his goods in such a way that even after allowing a discount of 20%, he makes a profit of 12%. How much percent above the cost price is the marked price? So here as given in the question, the discount is 20%, but still there is a profit of 12%. So we are supposed to find out by what percent should the cost price be marked up, or what should be the percentage difference between cost price and the marked price such that even after giving a discount of 20%, we can make a profit of 12%. Now to solve this question, let us start with an assumption that the cost price is rupees 100. If the cost price is rupees 100 and the profit is 12%, we can understand that the selling price should be equal to 100 plus 12% of 100. That is nothing but 100 rupees, that is the cost price, plus 12% of 100 rupees, which comes out to be 112 rupees. So the selling price when there is a profit of 12% should be 112. But at the same time, we also know that there was a discount of 20%. If the discount is 20%, we can understand that selling price should be 100 minus 20% of the marked price. That is nothing but the selling price here should be equal to 80% of marked price. And we know that the selling price is 112. So by substituting 112 in this equation, we can say that 112 should be equal to 80 by 100 into m. And from this, the mark price comes out to be 100 into 112 by 80. So by simplifying this, we get the answer as 140. That is, the marked price is 140 rupees. So as you can see here, with an assumption that the cost price is 100 rupees and following the given question, we have found that the marked price has to be 140. That means for a cost price of 100, the marked price should be 140, such that even after a discount of 20% on this marked price, we can make a profit of 12%. Now the question is, how much percent above the cost price is the marked price? So if the cost price is 100 and the marked price is 140, we can understand that the marked price is 40% more than the cost price. So the answer here should be 40%. It has been marked up by 40%. Or it is nothing but the percentage change between cost price and marked price. We have learned percentage change in the topic of percentages. It should be nothing but final value minus initial value by initial value into 100. So the final value is 140 and initial value is 100. So 140 minus 100 divided by 100 into 100 will be equal to 40%. So the marked price should be 40% more than the cost price. So this is how we can solve this question with a simple assumption that cost price is equal to 100. And friends, as I've already mentioned in the topic of percentages, we can start with any value. It need not be 100. We can also assume that cost price is 80 and accordingly do the calculations. Final answer remains 40% only. But it is always suggested that we start with 100 so that the calculation becomes simple. Let us now look at the other way of solving this question. This question here can be solved with the concept of net or effective percentage. If you try to observe, there is something called as cost price, which has been marked up by some percentage to get the marked price. And on this marked price, we get some discount. And after that, there is some profit. So we can understand that the profit that we obtain is an effective percentage of marking up percentage and the discount percentage. So going by the concept of effective percentage, we can say that the profit that is obtained or the profit percentage that is obtained should be A plus B plus AB by 100%. Here, A is nothing but the percentage by which the marked price has been taken above the cost price. And B is nothing but the discount percentage. Now, if you look at the given question, the discount percentage is equal to 20 and the profit is equal to 12%. So we can say that 12 should be equal to A, that is the percentage by which marked price has been taken above the cost price, plus the discount. Now, because discount is a decrease in value, it should be taken as minus 20. So B should be taken as minus 20 plus A into minus 20 by 100. Now, if we try to solve this equation, we find that A will be equal to plus 40%. So very clearly, A, which is nothing but the percentage by which the marked price has been taken above the cost price, is equal to 40%. So either you go by the concept of net or effective percentage or simply assume that the cost price is 100 to get the answer. But remember, when you use net or effective percentage, the net or effective percentage is the profit percentage and A is the percentage by which the price has been marked up and B is the discount percentage, which should be taken in terms of a negative sign. So that's all from profit and loss and discount. Practice well on these questions. See you in the next session. Thank you.